This is KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit digital resource. We're produced by Charitable Communications, a 501c3 nonprofit. We'll tell the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis.
And I'm Bobby Keys.
We're back at the Plaza Library.
And we got this cool little spot. It's like we're like right in the corner with the windows and everything.
We can see what's going on in Kansas City.
We got a lot of nonprofit stuff going on, as always.
Always. And we're so delighted to have a new guest on the show and a nonprofit that I don't think we've been able to have before, and that is the Jewish Community Relations Bureau, American Jewish Committee, and its executive director, Gavriela Geller. Welcome, Gavi.
Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
It has been kind of crazy in our world recently. Lots of things happening, hateful things happening. New York seems to be a big target, etc. Your organization is involved in dealing with that. Tell us what JCRB AJC does.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Ruth. So our organization was founded in 1944 to combat discrimination and anti-Semitism against the Jewish community. And we recognized really from the offset that you cannot make a safe world or a safe society for the Jewish community unless you are simultaneously pursuing justice and equality and protections for all minority and vulnerable communities. So our MO from the very start has been coalition building, community outreach, interfaith work, really working together with the Kansas City community as a whole to ensure protections for all minorities.
Now, starting in 1944, what drove, I assume, a few leaders to start the organization? What was the impetus behind that?
Sure. Well, remember in 1944, it was during the Holocaust, during World War II. And so, unfortunately, the American Jewish community was not able to save all of our brothers and sisters in Europe from that horrible tragedy. But they recognized that there was a need to do something at home. At that time, Jews were still discriminated against in very real and systemic ways. We were not allowed to buy, homes or move into certain neighborhoods, not allowed to work at certain companies or organizations, not allowed to have membership in downtown clubs and things like that. And so there was a real need for trying to integrate the Jewish community into the community at large.
And you recently had a huge anniversary.
We did. We celebrated our 75th anniversary this past year in 2019.
And there were some significant things that happened at your big dinner I know you had in the community. Can you tell us a little bit about your honorees and why you honor and who that award is named after?
Yes, so we are so honored to be able to present the Henry W. Block Human Relations Award each year. Henry Block was a big supporter of our organization. He had been involved since the very early days and really believed in our mission of advocating and educating to combat discrimination at home and abroad. So we give that award in his honor to somebody who has been an incredible civic leader and has really contributed significantly to the betterment of Kansas City in various ways. And this past year, we were so glad to present Herb Kahn with the Henry W. Block Human Relations Award in our 75th year.
Herb Kahn. Mm-hmm. Wait, what is it again?
Herb Kahn. It's their big award that's named for Henry Block, who's been a guest on our show of blessed memory. And he was delightful and
I didn't know. For some reason, I had no idea. I don't know why that just kind of went over my head. Herb Kahn.
Herb Kahn?
Herb Kahn, yeah.
You know him?
Yeah, well, yeah. That's my
knows
buddy.
Everybody.
No. But how have you seen kind of the landscape of Kansas City change, when it comes to multiculturally within I guess all cultures. I mean, you have to have kind of a tap on that, but when you're talking about the Jewish community and diversity, like Kansas City has changed.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
We are in a much better place for the Jewish community than we were when we were founded, thankfully, and I think in large part due to the tireless advocacy and work of our organization, which is really the only organization in our region that's doing this on behalf of the Jewish community. So, at this point, the Jewish community is really accepted and welcomed and a big part of the Kansas City community, broadly speaking, and we're very grateful for that. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Because that's what I wanted to also touch on is like, what does it look like, over the last, let's say 4 years, do you see, it seems like people are fired up, and you see, it's had a negative effect with some of the leaders of the country and some of the things that have been going on, but it's also had a positive effect, and that's kind of there's more passion within the with everybody's culture.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting observation, Bobby. I think that we have absolutely seen, unfortunately, a rise in hate crimes, a rise in hate rhetoric. Communities that are already vulnerable are really feeling that, and we're feeling even more vulnerable. There have been significant attacks against the Jewish community in the past year and a half that have really shaken us up. But you're right that the sort of secondary effect of that is that people realize the importance of coming together. And so after the Tree of Life shooting in October of 2018, we had a vigil, and 3,000 people came to this vigil. We had to turn people away. We had people of all faiths. Our partners showed up in full force to support us, and we always strive to do the same. It's unfortunate that it's necessary and that it keeps happening, but it is beautiful to see that show of solidarity.
Well, I had the privilege of being there, and it was very heartwarming. It made you feel comfortable. I don't want to say safe. That's kind of it's a loaded word, maybe sometimes. How do you go about doing this work, short of when something tragic happens and it tends to pull people of like minds together? On the regular day, like today, how do you do the work of your organization?
Yes. We invest significantly in relationships. It's all about forming genuine relationships. So as an example, I'll talk about our work with the Muslim community because it's something that I'm really proud of. We had a couple of years ago formed the Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, and that was originally formed as a way to just start building bridges with our communities, foster tolerance not tolerance, I don't like that word, foster understanding and friendship between our communities, because really actually we have so much in common. And that had been so successful. We did iftars with them. We did, Shabbats and things like that with them. We're now at a point, because we have such strong relationships, where we can take it to the next level and start working on joint advocacy together. We have really now formed it into a advocacy coalition where we're meeting. Yesterday, we met with the leadership of the FBI to discuss hate crimes. Wow. We have a meeting later this month with Representative Davids of the Kansas 3rd District.
She was on the show, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we've identified, challenges that both of our communities face domestically, and where we can come together and make our voices heard and make an impact on this community in a more effective way together than either of us could alone.
I want her Rolodex.
Yeah.
You must know everybody. All the people that are in power positions and the people behind. When you say you met with the FBI, that's pretty cool.
I met with the FBI today.
Well, they've been very proactive in their outreach to us, and they realize that vulnerable communities are, feeling a lot of fear right now. And so whenever there is an attack on the Jewish community, really worldwide or nationwide, they do reach out to us.
That's good to know, because a lot of people don't realize that. You hear so many negative things about our intelligence community and things going on today, and it's like, that there's so much controversy. Are they right? But it's nice to hear things like, yeah, they're actually active out there stopping things,
Absolutely.
you know?
Oh, I think that they're doing everything that they can to keep our communities safe.
Wonderful.
I really feel that. Yeah.
How do you engage the general person in the community? Are there ways for folks who are listening, for example, to be part of your efforts in the community to kind of build a, I guess, collaborative, knowing community, knowing each other?
Yeah, we are always working on ways to engage the community more broadly. I think that historically, a lot of our work has been done on a leadership level, and to be frank, that's sometimes just how things need to be done. But we are really looking for ways to engage the rest of the community, because we understand that, it's great if I have a great relationship with the Consul of Mexico, who is amazing here in Kansas City. But if the Mexican American communities and the Jewish communities in Kansas City aren't engaging with each other on a more grassroots level, are we really doing the full extent of our work? So we're certainly exploring those ways. I would say, we have public programs that people can attend. We do things like the Unity Seder last year, where we brought nearly 200 people together of all different faiths to share in the Passover Seder ritual, and really talk about our journeys and our commonalities and our pursuit of justice together. So we do have certain programs where people can participate. Other than that, though, you don't have to be part of our organization to do bridge building work and to do interfaith work. I would encourage everyone to try to pursue this, within their own community, and we're happy to make connections and involve people as much as we can. But really, what's going to be most effective is if everybody feels that should be a part of their life. They can be working with their congregation, to reach out to other congregations and mosques and synagogues near them. They can be working with their schools. And there's a lot of bridge building work that we can be doing, just neighbor to neighbor. Invite somebody over for a Shabbat dinner, and or for a Passover Seder. And think about how we can do this in our daily lives to connect communities together.
Sometimes there's, I think, the fear of the other, or how to start a conversation. Do you have resources to help people do that?
I don't have a dialogue handbook at this point, but I think that there are other resources. I know that the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom is a fantastic interfaith dialogue program here. And speaking of, I guess actually one other way that people could get involved with our work and with dialogue is through our Strangers No More program, which is our women's interfaith dialogue group that's convened with the Church of the Resurrection. And that is open to women of all faiths, that they could join that group, that they meet twice a month. But there are certainly resources out there for people to understand how to start dialogue. I think it starts always from speaking of a place of personal truth. You want to start with your personal experience and go from there, instead of starting with a societal truth, which might be something that not everybody is on the same page on quite yet.
Right. Where can people find out what you all are doing or how to engage with you or your programming?
We have a Facebook that we do update pretty regularly. We try to post a few times a week in our events and share what we're up to. We are working on our website, so that should hopefully be launched by early February, and that's very exciting. It was in dire need of a rehaul, and so it is coming along quite nicely.
We'll have to have a website launch party.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And celebrate what you're putting up there that everybody can take access from. As we are now in a new decade, what would you say are the top priorities for JCRB here in Kansas City?
Mm-hmm. I think that we have to double down on our work even more than ever. With this rise of hatred and with this rise of anti-Semitism, there is no better role for us than to play the role of a unifier and a connector in the community and a strong advocate for our shared values. So one of the things that I am very concerned about in our region in particular is, of course, white nationalism and white supremacy. We do see white nationalism coming into the public discourse a lot through anti-immigrant rhetoric. Now, that's not to say that all, immigration policies are white nationalist in nature, but it is factual that white nationalists have discovered that speaking about immigration in a very strong and harsh way is now acceptable for them in the mainstream, for them to convey their ideals and kind of spread their thoughts around. So that is something that we have to be really cognizant of and really come together as a community beyond just the Jewish community, because we're not the only ones targeted by that, and think, how do we address this in our region where we can all come together as people of good faith and good conscience and say, we're going to stand up against this.
And that's huge in my world. Like, I have this weird passion, to be honest with you, to understand the mentality of that particular group and kind of see and understand their dog whistle terminology. I mean, there's so many things, and so many people post things and they don't realize that the people where this originated are white nationalists, and they're posting this stuff, not thinking, not understanding the terminology, and it's spreading hate. It's like, it's the subconscious. Like, it's infuriating to see it.
And the Jewish community, I would say, knows historically the effects of such dehumanizing and demonizing rhetoric. Words matter. The language that we use matters.
Oh, yeah.
Everything starts
Absolutely.
with that. And so we cannot dismiss it as unimportant.
Yeah, right.
And we have to be cognizant that policies are one thing, and we can disagree about policies, but once a community starts to be generalized and stereotyped and dehumanized and demonized, we've all got to draw a red line there.
It's interesting. I think of your organization, in the little knowledge that I have, as words matter and actions matter.
Yes.
And you are trying to reach the younger generation. How are you doing that?
Well, we have a really wonderful young community here. I am involved with Avodah, which is a Jewish social justice group for young adults. It's a leadership program for young adults. I'm actually an alumni of Avodah from Chicago, so I sit on the advisory council here. And that's been a really beautiful way of creating community with young adults who are really interested in the connection of social justice with our Jewish identities. And they were involved in our Unity Seder this past year, as was Jewish Vocational Services, who has a Young Professionals Board. And as a result of those partnerships with our Unity Seder, that's why we had so many people there of so many different ages and different faiths. And so I think that partnering with other organizations in the communities that are already engaging these demographics is really key for us.
It's the Jewish Community Relations Bureau, American Jewish Committee. Gavriela Geller is the executive director. You can find out everything they're doing all the time at Facebook at JCRB AJC. Thank you for coming on and sharing all the great things you're doing out front and behind the scenes.
Thank you so much, Ruth and Bobby.